Hi, my name is Barney Joseph and I'm a building surveyor for Allbrother & Co Limited. We are a well-established consultancy based here in Kent. We are very pleased to have been appointed as project manager for the collaboration between the universities of Greenwich and Kent. Designated C4 Project Medway, this is planned as a two-stage project designed to run over the course of the year ending in 2016. The first stage will be primarily remediation and will require significant repair work and alterations to the fabric of the building. The second stage will be the fit-out. The project is intended to convert the former naval swimming pool into a new student hub. The costs of this project are being borne by the two universities, and the hub on completion will be used by all the students on campus. This campus is a former naval barracks, and the C4 building also housed a skittle alley alongside the swimming pool. The building was completed in 1902 and is a rare example of this type of Edwardian military architecture. Investigations have shown that the quality of its initial design and the build itself is such that there is no requirement for any major structural remediation. These images of the skittle alley and the swimming pool were taken about 100 years apart. The building appears substantially unaltered and we understand has not been in use for the past 2 decades. Internally, it has not suffered from vandalism or infestation. There has been some external damage, but that is to be expected after a century of braving the elements. The currency for this project is the recognition by the universities of the need for a unique space allocated to the student body. This has been driven by a dialogue between all parties, which has resulted in the student input being a significant factor within the design brief. One of the more important requirements was that the new spaces should be flexible and capable of hosting a range of events or activities. This and the preceding slide are artists' impressions of the completed student hub and highlight the intention to retain as far as possible the original design features of the building. This is visible in the treatment of the roofing timbers and the restoration of the glazed brickwork. The hub will incorporate arrival and social spaces, offices for the student union, a kitchen, new toilet facilities, and a cafe/bar. The nature of this project, the conversion of a disused early 20th century building for use in the 21st century by university students, is one that encompasses a larger than usual range of the legislative and regulatory framework. Whilst acknowledging the importance of the framework as a whole to the success of the project, this presentation will only consider certain specific aspects of that framework as they relate to the C4 project. As with any construction project, the health and safety of all operatives and visitors on site is a legal requirement. Specific to this project are the significant numbers of students going about their business in close proximity to the site. We are therefore very conscious of the need to be extra vigilant in terms of health and safety awareness, both on and off site, and the need to communicate the same to all stakeholders. That particular goal could be achieved by maintaining a dialogue with all relevant stakeholders towards the creation of acceptable safety protocols. These would be of considerable benefit given that there is also the high probability of there being a larger than usual number of site visits from university personnel, students, etc. With regard to responsibilities under CDM, this concern should be at the core of the pre-construction health and safety planning. As stated earlier, the university campus is a former Edwardian naval barracks and was designed as a complete entity. As such, Medway Council has designated the entire site as a conservation area, the C4 building itself being Grade 2 listed. This means that listed building consent will need to be obtained, as well as planning permission for change of use. The relationships developed during this process should be nurtured. The ecological impact of the project came to the fore when we were advised that bats were roosting in the C4 building. If this were true, it could seriously hamper the project, as all bats within the UK are subject to legal protection. Part of our environmental assessment included an ecological survey which found that there was no evidence that bats were roosting in the building. An inevitable consequence of any construction site is a certain level of noise and dust. By law, these can constitute a nuisance, and those affected can seek legal redress. Whilst working closely with the universities, who are the clients, we should seek to protect the works as far as possible from outside intervention, as well as the purely physical measures taken such as hoardings and other forms of screening. Use should be made of available legal protection. Prior consent applications under Section 6.1 of the Control of Pollution Act 1970 will allow us to determine our hours of work, methods, plant to be used, and any steps to mitigate noise for each element of the project in advance. This will also limit any action that Medway Council might take under said Act or the Environmental Protection Act to impose further controls on noise from the site. Merlin House, one of the University of Kent's halls of residence, is approximately 60 metres away to the southeast of the C4 building. This property is considered to be the closest residential accommodation to the C4 building. Recognising that excessive noise from the student hub might be likely to cause a nuisance and a potential breach of Part 3, Section 79 of the Environmental Protection Act, an acoustic survey was carried out by the Equus Partnership to determine typical daytime and nighttime noise levels characteristic of the site and its environs. Based on the data collected, acoustic design targets for entertainment breakout noise have been recommended. Recommendations have also been made in accordance with current good practice for indoor ambient noise levels and reverberation times. The problem of trespassers is one that needs serious consideration due to the negative consequences and publicity that would follow should any trespasser suffer injury. The universities, having so many young persons in their charge, daily have to demonstrate their ability to discharge their duty of care. We also are mindful of our legal and contractual obligations in that regard, and would seek to work closely to introduce and maintain appropriate safeguards. The C4 building's existing services and plant, such as they are totally inadequate to the demands of the 21st century. They will need to be upgraded or replaced where necessary. New service connections and supplies will be needed. Planning for their installation and commissioning should take into account the likelihood of possible disruption to existing supplies and provide suitable mitigation. To avoid potential problems, the design, installation and commissioning of all new plant and services should be undertaken in close cooperation with the facilities management team of Greenwich University, who will be taking over maintenance responsibilities for the new student hub. This dialogue should also address the siting of and access to the various services and equipment specific to their requirements. Whilst we envisage no problems with retaining skilled and suitably qualified labour, a decision should be made as soon as possible with regard to the mechanical and electrical contractors to be employed. This is to avoid the project falling foul of the shortage within that speciality that occurs during the summer months due to the significantly higher financial rewards of the London construction scene. A major logistical constraint will be the sourcing of replacements for obsolete materials. For example, the supply and availability of suitably sized timbers for the roof, in this instance 3-inch thick oak planking, will be problematical due to changes in the supply chain over the past 100 years. To ensure that there is no unnecessary delay to the project, suitable alternatives will have to be considered and approved by the appropriate authority. The limited availability of space on site will need to be addressed quite early to ensure that there is sufficient provision for welfare facilities adequate to the requirements of the site operatives and our legal and moral obligations. It should always be at the forefront of planning that due to the involvement of the universities, this project is seen as something of a showcase and will be viewed accordingly. A significant priority is always placed on achieving and maintaining a high level of site security. Specific to this site, our initial risk assessment has identified a number of potential threats unique to a university campus and its student body. Mitigation for these threats could be provided by close cooperation with the student unions in an attempt to engender and increase a feeling of ownership. On a more pragmatic level, we are aware that previously the C4 building had been used by local youths as a parkour training course. Site security should work closely with campus security to minimize the risk of trespassers gaining access to the site after hours. Security lighting and on-site CCTV systems may also be deployed as an additional layer of security. Because of its environment, a traffic management plan should be devised for implementation as soon as the site becomes active. Whilst we do not envisage a huge amount of site traffic, the nature of the site and the large number of students' associated activities raised some concerns. The plan will enhance site security and engage fully with campus security and existing safety protocols. Site traffic will be monitored to ensure strict adherence to the traffic management plan. New protocols should be established with regard to the expected number of site visits by students. Deliveries to site will be within a time frame that will not adversely affect the life of the university. There is limited parking on site, and agreement should be reached with the universities over the use of the campus parking facilities. We fully understand the need for the works to be completed on schedule and the student hub to be available for use at the start of the next academic year. In this regard, contingencies should be in place to deal with any supply problems and enable, if necessary, extended hours to be worked without any excessively negative impact on the university or its students. The close proximity of the C4 building to parts of the campus that are in use by the universities is a limitation on the proposed size of the construction site. As such, space will be at a premium and may cause problems with regard to storage capacity. The fact that the C4 building is substantially weatherproof allows us to utilize its internal space for temporary storage of materials during Phase 1. The need for storage space is further addressed by the use of the just-in-time method of materials procurement and delivery to site. This way of working ensures a significant reduction in the requirement for storage capacity on site. Should there be any problems, we know from past experience of working on small sites that the C4 project offers ample space for all storage contingencies. In summary, the most important aspects of this project will be recognition that most, if not all, legislative constraints will be compounded by having to take into account the university presence, and that logistically, sourcing of acceptable materials will be critical. A constant theme throughout this presentation has been the need for the establishment and maintenance of good relationships between all stakeholders, and the achievement and maintenance of strong and workable protocols. This project will begin in July of 2015 and be completed in September of 2016. Given the relatively straightforward nature of the task and the cooperation of the stakeholders concerned, I hope that my observations seem relevant and worthy of consideration. Thank you for taking the time to view this presentation, and if you have any queries, please do not hesitate to contact me at this office. Thank you and goodbye.